Your story comes at a really interesting time because there's been some talk about flight of some homeowners from the Northeast, where they're now going to be taxed more as a result of the recent legislation, to Florida. But there are some factors that maybe would put a cap on that activity, perhaps.
Yeah, that's a good point. We went down there after Hurricane Irma to follow up on some reporting we had done on climate change before the storm to see if the storm had affected the real estate market or convinced people to get out of Florida. And in fact, we found a few who are trying to sell their homes or are having a hard time doing it. So those people coming down from New Jersey may find some bargains.
So what specifically is it about the current environment that's prompting people to say, I don't want to stay here?
Well, the storm has really kind of reawakened doubters down there that climate change is real, sea levels are rising. So if you're looking at property in a coastal area, we're finding that buyers are becoming more suspicious. We found people having their homes on the market longer than they expected them to be, and many of them damaged by the storm. So it's hard now to ignore the reality that sea levels are rising and there are going to be more extreme storms like Irma.
Right, and it's not just the storm. I mean, parts of Miami flood on a pretty regular basis down there. What are we hearing so far from down there about prices, about sales, about what exactly is going on?
Well, the experts we spoke to said it's too soon to really calculate that in a data way. But we found plenty of anecdotal evidence. There's a gentleman we talked to who runs a company that values real estates and assesses flooding risks. He says he has more business than he can take. We talked to a former mayor of a community down there who attended a meeting for community leaders to talk about how they could prepare their communities. He said it was sold out. They used to not be able to get people to come. So there's plenty of anecdotal evidence that people are looking at avoiding some of those coastal areas that are most vulnerable to sea level rise and severe storms.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. So obviously, Florida is a big state and has different topographies and geographies and exposures to flooding. Are there particular areas that there seems to be the most anxiety, or is it just anywhere like right on the coasts?
Clearly, right on the coast are inland waterways that are affected by flooding, and those are throughout the state. Remember, it's a state that's virtually at sea level, so much of Florida has this trouble, and by extension, I think much of the rest of the country, low-lying areas, other coastal communities are probably going to be looking at something very similar in coming years.
And what about if you look at a housing market like Miami versus up the coast or in Naples? I mean, Miami also is known, I mean, everywhere in Florida is known something of a retirement community, but also known for other types of industry. Is that more insulated?
I'm sorry, is Florida more insulated?
Is Miami specifically more insulated at all?
Well, it still has a great glamorous reputation, lots of great restaurants, lots of good things to do. I think it's a very desirable community to a lot of people. And if you could find some space that's not too close to the water, it may be a fine place to live. The problem is it's virtually all at sea level, and they're running on a high ground where you might want to relocate to.